Welcome to Wildcat Wonder, where we take you inside Arizona research. Breakthroughs, discoveries, and advances happen so often at the University of Arizona, it can be a challenge just to keep up. We'll handle that for you. Join us as we explore the research, innovation, and awe-inspiring work making a societal impact that maintains the U of A's reputation as a global leader. On this episode, meet Pierre Deymier, Principal Investigator and Director of the New Frontiers of Sound Science and Technology Center, informally referred to as NUFOS. Based in the Grand Challenges Research Building on campus, NUFOS is dedicated to topological acoustics. Their work could vastly improve our lives when it comes to computers, cell phones, and other daily technologies. This Bio5 member and professor of materials science and engineering works long hours, but he's committed to making it fun for everyone involved, including student researchers. Our hosts are Lisa Romero, Associate Vice President of Research Communications and Marketing, and Lane Kowalski, Student Writer and Content Specialist. Now let's turn it over to Lisa and Lane.
Pierre, thank you so much for being with us
Yeah,
on this episode of Wildcat Wonder, our third episode. We've already had some really great conversations with a few of the amazing people at the U of A, and you are one of those. You were on our wish list, and so here you are. So we really appreciate your time.
It's my pleasure to be here.
Thank you. I'm going to actually start with inspiring people at the U of A by asking you, 39 years here, what has made you stay? That's a long time. That's a long time for a company, a university, in general. I mean, what is the tie? What's the tie that binds you and has made you stay?
So I'm a person who is very loyal to this institution, and I like very much that institution, the University of Arizona. I joined in 1985.
Wow.
Fresh out of my PhD, started as an assistant professor, and then moved up the ladder. So I think one thing that kept me interested in working at this university is the different challenges. Yes. So I was initially as an assistant professor, then I had the challenge of tenure and becoming an associate professor.
Such a big challenge.
The big challenge, yes, indeed. And then full professor, I became associate department head.
Yes.
So then these were new challenges.
New jobs, essentially.
And then I was director of the School of Sustainable Engineered System, which was a federation of 5 departments in the College of Engineering for several years. And that was another challenge. And then I became department head of material science and engineering. Yes. And that was another challenge. And I kept going through these challenges.
And you weren't done yet, because...
And I was not done yet, and now directing the New Frontiers of Sound Science and Technology Center is another challenge. So if you live your professional life through challenges, I think it makes it always exciting and interesting, and I enjoyed doing that.
That's so interesting you said that, because I think for me, one of the things I've loved about being at the university is, you know, if you want to take on a new challenge, if you have an idea, if you want to take that next step, everybody's like, go ahead, as long as you're willing to do it. And, you know, you have the sustenance for it. I think it's really interesting here. You can kind of create new jobs for yourself if you're willing to put in the work. That sounds like what you've done.
That's exactly what I've done. Indeed. I mean, you have a lot of freedom as a faculty member. Yes. And that is up to you as a faculty member to create the opportunities and the challenges that are going to excite you and give you a lot of fun in doing it as well.
Yeah.
How was it like transitioning from material sciences and engineering into being the director of NUFOS?
So it's not really a transition, because the New Frontiers of Sound, NUFOS Science and Technology Center is part of the Department of Material Science and Engineering. So I started working on this research proposal first about 10 years ago. And then it took a significant amount of trials to get to receiving that grant. And so it is not separate from the Department of Material Science and Engineering. In fact, we have in the center a number of junior faculty members from material science and engineering, and the center is giving them the opportunity of receiving funding, supervising students, and doing research on that topic.
Can you talk a little bit about what our listeners would understand from what you are trying to achieve through the center?
You think about shape, you think about geometry. And in fact, we're focusing on exploiting some attributes of acoustic wave that have been hidden for some time. And these attributes are related to the geometry of sound. or the shape of sound. And this is a kind of an interesting concept because you know sound because you hear it, and you hear pitch, you hear frequency effectively. But you have two ears, and one ear is listening to sound at one location, and the other ear is locating at the other location. So when you listen to stereo music, for instance, you get a sense of spatial distribution of the source of sound that you're listening to. So you're exploiting your ears to get a sense of the geometry of sound in the space or in the room that you're listening this to music or whatever. So this is the attributes that we are exploiting, the geometry of sound. What are we doing with it? We are exploiting, there is an analogy between the geometry of sound and quantum mechanics. Okay. So we're applying it to quantum information science without doing quantum mechanics. So that's one of the traits of our center. The second thing is we're also using not sound but seismic waves in the ground, which are effectively sound wave in the ground, and the geometry of the sound wave or the seismic wave in the ground to monitor the permafrost in Alaska. So we have a network of seismic sensors to monitor the geometry of seismic wave about 40 miles away from Fairbanks, Alaska, in the boreal forest, in the wilderness. And then you do the same type of things at the micro scale as well. Your cell phone uses what are called acoustic wave devices, which are micro devices, which are materials that are tailored in specific way to achieve some specific sound properties. And we modify those properties by modifying the geometry of the sound in those devices. So from very, very micro scale to very, very macro scale.
I know science communication has been at the heart of what you've tried to do all along, really being able to explain what you're doing to the average listener. So as an average listener, what is that going to change for me? What is that going to evolve into that might, impact me on a daily level?
So in terms of telecommunication and these micro devices, acoustic wave devices in your cell phone, with 5G, you have about 15 of them in your cell phone. And they use power. Okay. And they are lossy. And what we're trying to do is use the geometry of sound to reduce the loss of those devices. Because in the next generation, 6G, 7Gs, and so on, you're going to need more and more of these devices in your cell phone to filter the signals that the cell phone is receiving. So every time you're going to increase the use of power, and so you need to reduce the loss, so your battery is going to last longer. That's one impact on your everyday life.
I was going to say on everyone.
You recharge your cell phone very regularly.
Or our devices will explode also, perhaps.
Yes. But if you think about the people who live in the Arctic, for instance, I mean, in Alaska, I mean, the permafrost thawing is creating havoc on infrastructure. The roads are moving, the buildings are cracking, and so on. So if we can monitor the state of the permafrost in a non-invasive way in some ways and continuous monitoring the state in a continuous manner, then we can warn people. We can check what we may be able to do to avoid those catastrophes or those catastrophic events associated with the melting of the permafrost. So that's that. I mean, that's on. But we're not living in the Arctic.
Sure.
Tucson, as far as I know, is still not part of the Arctic.
Not quite.
But this technique can be applied also to monitoring other states of the ground.
Right.
Yeah.
And one of them is, for instance, the dryness of the ground. And we know how important that might be for forest fires, for instance. So we are starting to think also about using these techniques to monitor how dry the ground can be and be able to predict if fires are going to be a problem or not.
Yes.
So these are two of the applications. In terms of quantum applications, quantum computing application, I mean, we're not doing quantum mechanics, but there are companies investing billions and billions of dollars in this. And what we're trying to find out if there is an alternative to that, which is cheaper.
Right.
And that avoids the drawback of these quantum technologies. And that's what we're working on. So it's not yet, you don't have a quantum computer on your desk yet. But maybe you're going to have a topological acoustic computer on your desktop before the quantum computer.
Yes.
Cool.
Very interesting. Wide spectrum of potential applications. so much of your work, is complicated, and as you said, it takes years and years and years to perhaps get a grant and know the specific direction. But throughout all of that, you really like to immerse fun into the work you're doing. Tell us a little bit about that. And I'm asking legitimately as somebody that needs to figure that out a little bit better.
How to find fun in something complicated.
We all have to work, and we work in a complicated environment. So what are the ways after all these years of doing this that you've interwoven fun into this work?
So in my case, in the case of research, I mean, it's what makes it fun is the spirit of discovery. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's very painful to do research. I mean, people may not realize that people who are not researchers, you spend days and weeks and months trying to do something, and it doesn't work, and so on. But eventually, there is this moment of aha, and you have then joy, and you have fun reaching that point. Yeah. So that's one of them. I mean, and then the rest is fun in communicating. To students, to postdocs, and training them and telling them, showing them the excitement that you personally feel and communicating that. That is also a lot of fun.
Yeah. Talking about students, and I think you did your undergraduate work in France, right?
Yes, I have.
You're from France?
I'm from France. I'm from the southeast of France, from Provence. Okay. My hometown is near Avignon, the Pope Palace place. Nice. But I did my studies in Montpellier, which is not too far from the Mediterranean coast, and so I got my engineering degree there. And then I married in 1982, and I was 22 years old.
Wow!
And my wife was saying, maybe we should explore the world a little bit and not get a job in France as an engineer. So we looked at opportunities, and I had an opportunity to do a PhD or graduate studies at MIT in Cambridge, Massachusetts. So I went there and then finished in 1985, 3 years later, and we moved to Tucson after that.
Wow. Why did you guys decide to move to Tucson?
Actually, I applied for several jobs, and I got that position.
That makes sense.
So not knowing, so I'm going to tell you the truth here. We arrived in Tucson with my wife, and we thought, what is that place? I mean,
a little different,
a little bit, yeah.
When you come from Europe or you come from the Northeast of New England,
and in 1985.
In 1985, I can tell you that story. Perhaps I mean so that was March 1985, and that was when I had the interview at the University of Arizona, and we stayed over the weekend, and my wife and I said, okay, we're going to go downtown. In 1985, because
that didn't take you long.
In Boston, I mean, we would on weekends we'd say, okay, let's go downtown. There is a lot of life and so on. We went downtown Tucson in 1985. And that was on a Sunday, and everything was closed. There was wind, and you see these newspapers that are floating in the streets. It looked like a dead city after a nuclear blast.
Yes.
And my wife said, 1 year,
what are we doing?
Out of here. 39 years later, we're here. It's a wonderful place.
It grows on you.
It grows on you. Yeah. And it's a wonderful place to raise a family as well.
Yeah.
So when you did start teaching here, one of the things that you mentioned was the transition between being a student and becoming a faculty member and teaching and having to write proposals, that is very difficult because they don't teach you any of that. So how did you manage that?
So nobody teaches you that. I mean, nowadays, most of the young faculty that are being hired have done postdocs. So in a postdoc, they learn a little bit of how to write proposals. They may support their faculty advisors in teaching and so on. But I came here after my PhD, just fresh PhD, and so I had no training. I mean, when you do a PhD, you get no training in teaching style or how to teach students. You get no training in writing research proposals.
Right.
None of that. So basically, it is someone dumps you in a swimming pool and you don't know how to swim, and they say, go ahead and swim. Your life depends on your ability to swim.
Yeah.
So that was it. A lot of mistakes. I made a lot of mistakes over the years, but now I think I'm making fewer and fewer mistakes, so I can at least pass that information to the younger generation that I interact with the students and the postdocs.
Well, we need to take a quick break, and we're going to come right back and talk a little bit more about your work.
This podcast is brought to you by a growing partnership at the University of Arizona. The Office of Research, Innovation, and Impact oversees more than $1 billion in research activity. Its communications and marketing team is committed to sharing all the incredible breakthroughs and discoveries, especially the impacts they have on our society. The School of Journalism in the College of Social and Behavioral Sciences is an accredited program with a strong focus on global journalism as well as audio and visual reporting. Students are trained in the latest technology they need to succeed in an ever-changing digital media environment. One example is the internship offered that supports the production and promotion of this podcast. Now back to our hosts.
I would love to follow up with the conversation about students and training. One of the reasons we wanted you on the podcast at this time is we just had the grand opening of our Grand Challenges Research Building, which I think is going to be, a game changer for a lot of our centers, in particular, like NUFOS, in terms of what we can do both scientifically and technologically, but also related to students and training them and integrating them. So maybe talk a little bit about how the building, is different and will allow you to expand and grow and also teach with a hands-on approach.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, I'll be happy to comment about the opportunity that effectively the University of Arizona gave me in working with the architect to design the 6th floor of the Grand Challenge Research Building. At that time, we didn't have the proposal funded, but I think RII was thinking that we may receive that grant. And so we were involved with the architect. And so what we did, and some of us, Sarah Chavaria, for instance, who is a co-PI of the project, and she's in the College of Education. And I and other faculty members worked with the architect to try to design an environment which is conducive to what is called integrative research. So integrative research means you're not hiding in your office, you're not hiding in your lab, you don't have closed space and so on. So we made it as open as possible. So if you come and visit our 6th floor, you will see that the labs are behind glass walls. So you see what the students are doing, you see what the faculty are doing, what the researchers are doing in the labs, you see the equipment. All the offices have doors which have windows. We have interaction space. We designed this interaction space for the community, our community, NUFOS community, to come together and then interact. The students can interact in small groups, they can interact in large groups and so on. And we have also design space for undergraduate students to be engaged also in the center in the research. So there is at the eastern part of the 6th floor, which is designed for undergraduate students. As part of NUFOS, we have a research experience and mentoring program for undergraduate students.
Okay. Oh, that's cool.
So this is engaging students, undergraduate students, and engaging them and also paying them, because we recognize that financial support is very important, especially for underrepresented students. And what we're doing is, during the summer, the students are experiencing research. So first they have 1 week of steep climbing, learning about topological acoustics and what it means in terms of technologies and research. And then after that, they go in the lab and they work in teams. This REM program, Research Experience and Mentoring Programs, is happening across the institutions, the partner institutions of NUFOS. So you know that amazing. UFA is the lead institution, but we have 8 partners like UCLA, Caltech, or Georgia Tech, and University of Alaska, Fairbanks, City University, New York, so all over the nation. And we're going to have students, we're going to start this summer, 2025. Students are going to come from those institutions, come over here. We exchange students with them from the UFA and work with faculty members on research project. But that's not all, because after that, after 8 weeks in the summer, what we are making sure of is that the students are mentored during the fall and the spring semester. Mentoring is essential for retention. The students can experience research, but they need support.
Yes.
And support not only in terms of their academic activities, but also just as persons. I mean,
psychological.
when they face challenges, personal challenges, they can turn to a mentor.
Right.
So during these mentoring activities in the fall 2025 and spring 2026, the students are going to be trained and taught professional development as well. So some of the softer skills that they need to succeed in a career as researchers or engineers and so on.
Yeah.
Well, eventually, we also send them to a conference
Sure.
because it's also important to meet the community and see how things are done
Yes.
in academia.
Did you say undergrad level or
Undergrad
Undergrad,
levels.
okay.
That's
These are
amazing.
That's
undergrad.
really
cool.
So,
Yeah.
junior, essentially, we had a program, a similar program on another grant before that, and we loved it so much, and we thought it had so much impact on students, undergraduate students, that we are scaling it up. Having a center enables us to scale it up.
Yes.
So next year we have 8 students participating in the RAM program. The year after that, we'll have 16 of them, and then another 16. And so we're trying to effectively create a workforce in topological acoustics
Yes.
that can promote it and take it from university to maybe industry or
Yes.
the outside world.
Yes.
Yeah. So with all the students that you're gathering to get into this field, what advice would you give them? Because your job requires you to work at a very high level all the time. So what's the reality of the job?
So what we're doing, at least for them, is the first week we're training them in using equipment, in learning about topological acoustics. We have a partner at Spelman College in Atlanta, Georgia, who is writing what are called primers, which are going to enable the students to learn the fundamental concepts that are going to bring them to a level where they can operate in the labs. So that's, but the advice I would give them don't give up.
Yeah.
Don't give up. I mean, is some of our students in the past have faced those challenges
exactly,
and they made it. And so, and we are here. I mean, they get full support from faculty members, mentoring from educators and the people who have a lot of experience in mentoring students to make sure that they stick to it.
Yes.
Right.
And they take the challenge and they meet the challenge.
Well, I love to. I mean, and some of them will get to the end of that and realize, that's exactly what they want to do. And then they'll have this great basis and foundation for moving forward. And others will learn the opposite of that, but that's good too, right? I mean, I think that either outcome is, something that we owe our students is
it's
to have
it's
these
a
opportunities.
positive outcome,
Yeah.
indeed. We want to make sure that we create an awareness. And then they decide on what their future should look like. But at least they make their choice based on this awareness.
Yes. Because today, I mean, what they're learning in school, in these fields, these new fields, these emerging fields are complicated. And, in high schools, they're not saying, I want to get into X, Y, or Z and know what that even means. I mean, my youngest daughter has just graduated from college, and I think she still doesn't really know what she wants to do because she didn't have hands-on experience like that. And I won't say what school she went to, but not this one. But it's interesting to watch today because the fields are emerging so quickly and becoming so technologically advanced that unless we have those opportunities, it's difficult for people to find their way.
So that creates opportunities in terms of an emerging field. That's true. However, the mentoring aspect also is very important for them to find their ways.
Yes.
When we when we teach them how to do professional development, we teach them how to write a CV.
Yes.
So whether you want to become an acoustician in the field of topological acoustics, or then you want to change direction and you want to become someone else doing community work or something, it will not matter for us. Right. What is important is that they find their way, and we provide them with the tools to find their ways. So writing a resume or a CV, doing an elevator speech, I mean, a pitch, 60. You have 60 seconds to tell me what you did in your summer research experience, presenting their work as well, and presenting themselves.
Having the confidence
in a professional manner, and so on. And being told that they can do what they want to do. And I think these are going to be extremely important soft skills in addition to the technological and scientific and theoretical and fundamental skills that they will gain in the lab.
True. Yeah. Very true.
So our new FOSS Center is really trying to be transdisciplinary and not just focus on one aspect, which is research, but also focus on human development.
The human experience in it. That's right. That's great. Maybe this is something that keeps you in Tucson now that we've evolved a little bit more here.
Yes.
But I know I heard you're into biking. Is that right? Yeah. Is that what you do to kind of decompress and have a little bit of work-life balance?
Yeah. Yes. I mean, when you're in these jobs, I mean, I consider myself to be an athlete. I mean, a faculty member is an athlete. You need to train.
I love that. You're absolutely right.
Awesome,
intellectually,
oh my gosh,
you're
right.
being challenged all
top
the
of your
time.
game.
You write a research proposal. It's like going to the Olympic Games. And most of the time, you lose. You don't get a medal and so on. Yeah. So at some point, you need to balance also the physical aspect. And biking is a way of evacuating stress. And Tucson is a great place for that. I mean, you said it. It's I like with my wife we go biking on the loop, and I do bike when we go back to France. As you said, we're French, and we like to bike in France, but they don't have
the loop.
So you have cars and trucks, and it's dangerous here in Tucson. You can bike for miles or tens of miles and feel safe and comfortable. So that's our current hobby at some point to keep sane.
That's a good one
and in physical shape.
Yeah.
So did you ever struggle with the work-life balance, especially because you've had to deal with your job and your family? So how have you kind of managed that?
So when I started the job, my wife told me, "You're not going to work on the weekends."
Right.
I mean, we had...
It's a good policy.
Yes, but that was then. I mean, in the 1980s and 90s, it was a little bit different. Now, work-life balance is
blurred.
Yes,
blurry line.
And it's more accepted than then. Yeah. But we had 2 young children, and we needed to spend the time with them. I mean, if you don't spend the time with your children, you're not doing it right, because they grow so fast. So weekends were not about work. Right. The rest of the week was about work, but weekends were not.
And you've tried to keep that going through.
I keep that going. Good. Yes. So now I have 2 grandchildren. So
you do?
I try to spend time with them.
Are they here?
One of them is in Tucson. The other one is in the Northeast. But one of them is in Tucson. The father is my son, and he works at the University of Arizona.
Oh, really? So I didn't know that. That's great.
He works in the Genomic Center. So he's part of RII.
Okay. So I will have to find out who that is. I did not know that. That's very cool. Yeah, you're right. I mean, that work-life balance is a challenge for so many, including me. I'm not going to look at Craig because he's probably rolling his eyes at me right now. But it is. I love that you've made that a priority and you've tried to stick with that.
It should be a priority.
Yeah, it should. It should.
It's a question of efficiency as well at work. What I find is when you work, you need to work 100%. Yes. Give 100% to your work. That way, then you have free time for your life.
Yeah.
Outside work. So
Well, it sounds like you're doing well at both right now. Again, congratulations on the new building and how well the center is doing. We're really looking forward to seeing the work and the results that come out of the center and how they will, really change the way that we work and live and how we do things. And I personally am even more excited to see sort of the educational programming that you just described. That's kind of a piece of my heart. I used to work at the Bio 5 Institute. I think you know that. And, we had the KEYS program and other programs similar to that. And, that was always one of the highlights for me because, again, you can actually see the results of your work. You can see these children grow and these young adults grow and change and right in front of you. And I guess at the end of the day, we're at a university, and that's what we should be doing.
That's how you know you've done your job right.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
So thank you for spending time with us and for all you do. And
thank you for the opportunity of talking about new frontiers of sound.
Yes,
and
of course.
Trying to maybe inspire some younger minds.
That's right.
In working in topological acoustics or working in academia as well.
That's right. Yep. And we will be practicing our our pronunciation.
Topological.
from after this interview. But thank you again, Pierre. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Wildcat Wonder, the podcast where we take you inside Arizona research. If you enjoyed what you just heard, just send it to a friend, colleague, or maybe share it on social media. Remember to follow the Office of Research, Innovation, and Impact on your favorite platforms. And if you have a good suggestion for a person or a project to feature on an upcoming episode, email research@arizona.edu. Bear down.